Before we begin, two messages. What mobile platform do companies like eBay, NBC Universal, the Los Angeles Times, Razorfish, and PayPal use to build their cross-platform native applications? Titanium by Appcelerator. They aren't alone. There are now over 25,000 apps deployed by Appcelerator, which has been called the Rosetta Stone of app development. And you can start now for free. Just go to www.appcelerator.com for more information. When my company needed to develop a key mobile product, one that I was counting on as a new source of revenue, I knew exactly who to turn to. Macadamian. They delivered on time with incredible attention to detail, and I was able to get product into customers' hands faster than I ever thought possible. I've personally known them for 10 years, and they do make great products even better. Check them out at www.macadamian.com. Hey everybody, and welcome to Untether.tv. I'm your host, Rob Woodbridge. And of course, this is that place you come to each and every day to hear the stories of the entrepreneurs that are paving the way in this industry that is growing around us. These things that we're doing are in direct relation to what they are doing. They are showing us the way that the mobile industry is going to go forward. And at the same time, probably disrupting many other businesses, or in fact inventing new ones, new ways to make money, new ways to generate an income if you are a business, and also new ways of doing things in business, which is really the cool part. So it's a very disruptive space, and I'm pretty excited about this guest simply because I believe that mobile has this way of influencing the way that we buy, what we buy, where we buy, and how much we pay for that. But what we always tend to forget is the fact that this is a local engagement. Most of the stuff that's happening is local, and that's where Zaarly fits in so well. And I'm gonna let we're gonna discuss what Zaarly is in a second. But I want to bring in Eric Custer, who is the COO and co-founder of this young company with an incredible amount of buzz. Certainly millions of dollars have gone through in transactions or gone through your service. You've raised a lot of money, acquired, certainly attracted some great board members, and at the same time are building a pretty substantial business, not just locally where you are in San Francisco, but across the nation, the United States, and expanding very quickly. So, Eric, really appreciate you coming on. Welcome, man. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad you guys are talking. I'm glad you're talking about mobile because it really is. It's changing things in a big way.
Yeah, and I think that we are just starting to graze the surface of the things that this industry is, that mobile is going to change in business and the way that we communicate, the way that we consume everything. And I think we're just beginning to understand just a little bit of what it is. Mm-hmm. And I know that the way that people work and the way that people buy stuff, that's where you guys play, and you change that. Your service changes that right away, and I think that these are the things that are so intriguing by it, because we've been doing this for so long the same way, and then all of a sudden a technology enables something like you guys are doing. So why don't you tell us what Zaarly is, so for people who don't know?
Yeah, sure. I think you've kind of hit on a lot of the themes right there. Is that what we're trying to really do is become the mobile marketplace, and I think that people are using their mobile phones very differently, and what we're trying to do is allow you to buy and sell in a unique way with people around you. So kind of to shortly explain what Zaarly is if you've ever thought to yourself, I would pay blank for blank, then Zaarly's for you. So if you've ever said, I would pay $50 for someone to clean my house after a party, or I would pay $1,000 for a room in New York City to stay with someone, or I would pay $50 to get backstage and meet the band at a concert, then that's what Zaarly is. And on the flip side of that, it really becomes kind of the world's first marketplace for money. So you can suddenly see that someone's willing to pay, $100 for a Christmas T-shirt, Christmas sweater, a really ugly Christmas sweater for a party, which we actually saw. Or someone will pay you, $200 to basically hang up Christmas lights in their house. Whatever it is, that's what Zaarly does for you. Is it allows you to, on one hand, say what you want, broadcast it to the community around you, and on the other hand, see what people are willing to pay money for and make money right ahead. So we're really trying to become the marketplace for people on the go, and I think that's what's exciting about mobile and about that combination of local and commerce, is that people really do want to buy and sell with people around them, and we're seeing some amazing stories result from that kind of power from the phone.
Well, I mean, it just seems like this is a logical piece, and oftentimes You walk down the street, and we live in silos, even in our own neighborhoods, and we don't know what is for sale, what isn't for sale. I've often driven by somebody's garbage and thought, wow, that I'm going to take that, right? Not anymore, but at some point, as a starving student, you look at that and there's value to everything that people are throwing out. But that's the only way that you find out what they have. So a service like Zaarly really opens up the kimono. It just says, here are the things that I'm looking for. Here are the things that I want. Here are the things that I have that I'm willing to part with. And here's even the neatest thing is, here's a skill that I have that I'm willing to share, and you hire me to do that skill. That's all done from a mobile device. It's pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, and we like to actually think about it, kind of some different terms. We call it, for the longest time, since the dawn of time, we've really seen this where people are marketed to, so that you actually are kind of the passive buyer of things, right? You hear from Nike that you need to just do it and buy their shoes, or you hear from Nordstrom that you need to go buy their clothes, or McDonald's to buy their food. We've actually kind of flipped that on its head, where now you can actively say what you want to buy, and sellers can hear those requests or almost ads for things that you want to buy and do passive selling. So it's pretty magical. For example, at my house, I have a couch that we had sitting there, but we were looking to upgrade anyways. Someone in my neighborhood said that they were willing to pay $100 for a couch. We were going to pay for someone to take that couch away, and suddenly that had value. So to me, that was called passive selling, where I basically had something, saw that someone wanted it, was able to sell it. And I don't think that was possible before really the smartphone and geolocation, those kind of things that allow you to do this active buying and passive selling.
I remember there was this phase that everybody went through, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people went through with eBay, which was, get rid of your excess stuff. And I think this was probably Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Work Week kind of said, look, sell everything on eBay. The suit that you haven't worn in 3 years, it's got value to somebody. But it was always such a painful process because it wasn't local. You had to wrap it up and ship it and do all those kind of things. And what about returns? And I think that there was that hyper local piece was definitely missing in that. And certainly, enabling findability, I would say, it was the other big thing. The community building within something like that. eBay is a big neighborhood with a global footprint, and it's very hard to drill down to what's around you. Sometimes there's not a lot, but certainly with Zaarly, dedicated to the network, to the local community and the network. I love that. So, what was the reason behind? There had to be there's two sides of, I think, in a mobile business. One is you start something because it's a cool idea and you think, listen, this is going to stick around. We're going to give it a go. Maybe a game, right? And then the other thing is that, listen, we believe this is a real business, something that's going to change the face of how we sell, how we buy, how we work. I'm going to ask this question almost facetiously, but where did you guys, when you thought of this idea, because you guys started when? February of 2011?
February, yeah, just about 9 months ago.
And how did you come up with this idea? Why come up with this idea? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so I think part of it is I think if we'd really sat in a room and basically whiteboarded out the concept that was Zaarly, we probably would have convinced ourselves not to do it.
Right.
And I think because of the way we started is why we started this business. So we actually started at an event called Startup Weekend, which is now this kind of global phenomenon where they're in 300 cities and events around the country. And what it is really is it's kind of a hackathon, so to speak, where you get business people, developers, designers in a room for the weekend, and you start with the idea on Friday of people can pitch whatever idea they want. They form teams around the best ideas. You build it over the weekend, and on Sunday night you pitch your finished product or your prototype. Well, Zaarly actually spun right out of that event in Los Angeles, where my co-founder Bo and I went down there to basically help other teams. We kind of weren't looking for to start a company, but we talked about ideas that were somewhat in this space. For example, the problem that I was having is I was working and I would park my car on the street and I'd forget to put money in the meter, and I needed someone to do it, so I wanted to just basically be able to say, can I pay someone who's walking by the meter to put in money?
Right.
And that was my pain point, is those $75 parking tickets. Bo's pain point was that he's 6'8", very tall guy, and he always it's painful for him to fly when he has to sit in the normal seat. So he always will walk on an airplane and say hey, can I actually buy this seat from you in an exit row seat or a seat that might be open there? It's kind of awkward, so he just wanted to be able to broadcast that. So that's actually what happened with Zaarly is Bo just pitched that idea out on Friday night. We met our third co-founder, Ian, who happened to be in town for the weekend, and he'd been thinking about a similar problem. How do you create virtual garage sales without actually having to go to the garage sale? You can kind of create these virtual things. So the three of us, disparate ideas, but around the same theme problem points we had. So we actually just started building. We knew nothing about the industry, nothing about the space, nothing, no research involved, and we just built something that solved a personal problem. Sunday night, we pitched our presentation, and Ashton Kutcher happened to be one of the judges at Startup Weekend. He actually knew Bo casually through Kauffman Foundation and wanted to come kind of check out the buzz around Startup Weekend. He loved our idea, and 3 days later, he funded the company, and on the day after, Bo, Ian, and I all quit our jobs and went all in. So I think for us, it was really like those personal pain points that we had, thinking about how we could solve them, and really like not worrying about what was going on, with what reasons not to do it. It was just like, let's do it and see what we can do to solve our problems.
So here, listen, I gotta get this. I gotta get the chronology right here, because I mean, what a great story is that. So like, you go down to assist on this Startup Weekend on a Friday. You come up with an idea because you guys are talking about this idea. By Sunday, you've pitched the idea. By the end of the week, you have quit your jobs, and you have been funded by Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, and we actually like, built our first fully functioning prototype. Like the whole system worked by Sunday night. And then we basically decided within like 2.5 weeks later to scrap that entire system and start over and kind of launch a second version, a second iteration at South by Southwest, which was the largest tech conference in the world. Yeah. Decided to be a great idea. So we didn't sleep for 3 weeks, turned this thing on for literally 24 hours and had $10,000 of transactions go through the system. So to us, that was kind of the first validation was, is this interesting to us and can we build it? The second iteration was like, let's just build a truly minimum viable product, something very simple for a specific number of people and see how they react to it. And we had like much stronger reaction than we thought, to see those people using it, and took all that feedback and really started thinking about how to make it even better, and launched our full functioning version nationwide 2 months later. So it was rapid prototyping, and I think just listening to people along the way.
It's pretty incredible though to think about how quickly that was. So when was that Startup Weekend? So you launched it, you launched it at South by Southwest, but when was that Startup Weekend? Was that February 2011?
Yeah, February 21st was our kind of birthday, I think. So like a little less than 90 days from idea all the way through full launch nationwide. It does come down to, I think, like it is that whole thing, and I think that's what really is interesting about mobile is that you can't worry so much about what it is or what it isn't. I think it's the space that really does require you to solve a problem and think very differently about the platform. Had we gone and thought like, oh, eBay and Craigslist, they've got this chicken and egg problem solved, like there's no chance for us. I think mobile is so unique because it is a different platform. I mean, it is not like just porting your website over to mobile phone. It's a entirely different experience.
So, I mean, how did mobile play into you guys then? I'm going to come back to South by Southwest because it's always interesting around the launch mentality around South by Southwest, and I'd like to get your opinion on that. But I'm very interested as well is that, you look at these big guys. TaskRabbit has been out for a long time. There's a couple of other guys that are doing similar things in different cities across the country. But how does mobile differentiate this opportunity from what a typical classifieds is doing, like a Craigslist? What is it about mobile?
I think it's a couple things. I think the first thing is that the mobile phone has changed the way. So the old days, someone can be considered an internet user if they check the internet twice a week. That's the definition of an internet user, right? But with the mobile phone, the average user of the mobile web checks their phone 10 to 20 times per day. So it's actually, I think, the differentiation between, you could go on a system and let it sit for a while. You could post something on eBay or Craigslist and let it sit for several weeks, or a task and let it sit for a while. Yep. This incorporates the real-time nature of it, and I think that's what mobile does. And so, what we're trying to really build is a marketplace that allows you to solve those real-time needs. So some of our favorite stories have been, there was a woman who was at a wedding, and she basically had the DJ cancel last minute on the day of her wedding, and she was freaking out. I mean, you can imagine a bride's already stressed. And so she posted that she needed a DJ, and we syndicated around her, and one of the DJs who has an alert on his phone gets an alert, says like, someone needs a DJ. Heck yeah, I can make an extra $300 for the night. I'm in. And so she has a real-time problem solved that no other platform could solve, and we have a DJ who's just made $300. So it's matching those two together that makes the mobile phone do those things possible.
And you know, ultimately, fundamentally, you know, when you can create that transaction, when you bring two people together, it's one thing to be satisfied with, you know, a peaked interest, you know, $10,000 flowing through this, or $10,000 worth of offers going through this at South by Southwest. But it's another thing to have a story like that, where you know, you know, you're connecting one person in need with one person who can provide that service in real time. I mean, ultimately, you do that one time, I think, and you realize that you have something on your hands, right?
Yep.
Is that what it was for you guys?
Yeah, it was. And I think, you know, this is the other thing I think that I would kind of urge entrepreneurs, no matter what to do, is you've got to eat your own dog food, right? I mean, I think we urge everyone in the company to use our platform. And we basically, as part of your compensation package for joining us, you get Zaarly bucks to spend on the system. And it's so important for us to use it. So for me, I think the experiences where I've used it and seen the magic teach me what we need to do better and what we do well. So, you know, for example, like we needed a dog sitter and a house sitter for our house. I spent an hour looking online the last time we had to do this, and this time I basically posted it on our system, and within several hours I had multiple people who could help me. I could sort through those people, you know, understand that kind of stuff. Those kind of like things where you understand it yourself is great, and I think that's the power of this. But I think that's why we as a company it's so important for us to eat our own dog food, to try and improve on the way.
What do you think the long-term implications of what you guys are doing? Maybe, I mean, so I caveat, you guys have been around for 9 months, right? And great funding, great people, and obviously an idea that resonates. But could you speculate to think about what the long-term impact of what you guys are doing may be? Do you think about that?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think, you know, we're obviously, we've spent a lot of time looking at the concept of marketplaces. You know, fundamentally what we're trying to do is build a marketplace. And it's different than a lot of other kind of businesses. Marketplaces tend to have one dominant winner in that marketplace. Now, there can be niches within it, but there really only is one eBay. Now, there may be Etsy that's a smaller version for more niche things, or there may be, you know, a Bonanza, which is a different kind of marketplace. But really, there's one eBay. Yep. Same thing as we think in this real-time, local, kind of mobile-focused marketplace, the mobile marketplace, we think will have one player that becomes the dominant go-to place where you wind up buying and selling. And so, you know, ubiquity is what you need in a marketplace to have that true liquidity. And we want it to be where you post something and that literally, like, it becomes within a block of you. There's enough people who are notified that you only have to go one block. It's, you know, we're not there yet, obviously, and I think that that's why this is really all about getting more people to use the platform. But in places like, you know, Manhattan in New York, or in, you know, in downtown San Francisco, where we have a pretty high density of people, you wind up seeing some pretty unique things happen, where someone posts something and within a few minutes you've got, you know, someone posted in New York City that they needed a caterer for a dinner party, and within 15 minutes they had 4 people who wanted to cater for them. So, like, that kind of stuff happens when you build the density into the network.
Yeah, I mean, I look at like a target, you know, a picture of a target. And the closer you are to that circle, obviously, is where you want to be for fulfillment. Because you don't want anything to fall into this big gaping hole and have an echoed and nothing, you know, nobody respond to these things. Because so, I mean, when you start to roll these things out, when you roll this out, I mean, do you limit the reach? Is that your strategy? Do you say, listen, we're going to go to high or dense areas like cities like New York, you know, by far, San Francisco, by far, Chicago. Do you look at those big centers first and say, or South by Southwest as a launching point, because you're getting, you know, the bleeding edge technologists and people who embrace this stuff right there. Do you limit it to those centers, or do you just say, look, we're going to let it be free?
So we've actually taken the approach of let it be free, and I think that part of the reason we've done it, and I think it's only possible because we're focused as a buyer-centric or buyer-first marketplace. Because what tends to happen is that there is, in the broader market of all, you know, the economics, so to speak, there's much more supply than there is demand. Always tends to be that way, except for certain instances. Same with us for services and most of the goods that people want to transact for. There's more supply than there is demand. So if we can get someone to use their phone to say something they want, it's easier for us and our elves in the back office, so to speak, to help find that supply, be it in Oklahoma City, Boise, Idaho, or wherever, even if we don't necessarily have a real-time match for it. So we kind of focus on a construct called minimum viable density for what our longer-term strategy is, which is we want to build in our core verticals where we see that we have an opportunity and we've seen great strength, which is right now around 35 kind of core services and supply verticals. We want to create a minimum viable density in our key markets and roll from there. of those providers, so that when you basically post for a caterer or a DJ or a graphics designer, that we know within that density how many offers you can likely get at certain price points. So it starts to become, very methodical at a certain point, and that's kind of what we're trying to build out.
And I mean, are there certain areas where you're seeing that? You mentioned catering, you mentioned DJing, graphic design. Do those fill out the kind of top 5 requests that are out there?
Yeah, I mean that's probably some good ones. So our kind of marketplace in general, just to give you a sense of how it's broken down, is really about 40% or so is based around services, and so that is like the caterer, the DJ, the graphics designer, and then about another 40% is really in the good space, and so those are like things that I need a couch, or I need a kayak, or I need a bicycle, or I need an iPad, whatever those might be. And a lot of them tend to be goods that are not good on eBay, or kind of you don't like to transact on places on other marketplaces like a Craigslist. And then the last 20% tends to be what we call like access to experiences. So really what that is I want tickets to a concert, I want to get backstage, I want to meet someone, I want to get into this restaurant, or whatever it might be. So it's really that kind of access things and that's really an interesting market for sure, because there's never been a marketplace for advice or introductions, or have someone plan a dinner for me, an anniversary dinner for me and my wife. Where do you go to get that other than a marketplace like this?
It's like filling in the cracks, right? The things that that you never knew you could actually source out and find people to help you with. What about the impact on things like pricing, right? So scarcity breeds price increases. Convenience breeds price increases. You got it. And certainly when you take a last minute deal like this woman who needed a DJ, or somebody who needed catering at the last minute, there could be a tendency to is there a polite way of saying this? Get reamed, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. So I think that what you find in those situations, though, is that the woman who needed the DJ was willing to pay almost any price for it, and so she basically put her minimum price that she was willing to pay to basically satisfy that need that she had. And I think that ultimately our goal is to get as many DJs to interact with her, to help her at that price.
Right.
But we're a liquid market, so I think people ultimately have the opportunity to go up or down as they need. We find that what actually Zaarly gives this woman who had a last minute need is that it actually gives her access to hundreds of DJs as opposed to just 1 or 2 that she may be able to call on the phone. So if she called a DJ and said, "Hey, I'm super desperate, can you do this?" he could say, "Well, yeah, I'm busy, but I'll do it for $10,000 tonight," and she might not have time. Where it was with us, super simple. All she has to do is post what she wants, wait for people to respond to her. And so we think that liquidity is actually helpful to the consumer and helpful to the business, that they wind up finding much more matches than they did before. And so for us, I think that is kind of the future, right? It is putting the consumer at the center of this and helping the business find free leads, essentially. So the business person may be able to earn money on something they didn't before. We have an individual who's in the landscaping business who's told this story to us in Kansas City. Well, what they're actually doing is they're going out on their normal jobs in the morning, and then around lunchtime or in the afternoon, they check to see if there's any jobs in the area around where they are, because they've already got that asset, the company truck out there, so they can literally see, like, well, that one I would usually do that job for $50, but they want to do it for $40, but since I'm in the area, I can basically already make a profit because I'm just maximizing the unused asset that I have. And so those kind of things I think will happen more and more down the road as we wind up having greater and greater ubiquity. But in key markets where we're seeing that happen, it does make those magic moments happen.
Well, so much. There's so much here, Eric, because I mean, what we're talking about here is price elasticity. We're talking about the way that you price a product and service is now based on it's fluid pricing. It's supply and demand. It's time to your time and how much time you need before the service has to get done, or the product you need the product. Like this has got to have long-term ramifications on the way that we price things, the way that as consumers we're willing to pay, and certainly. Will we ever pay full price for anything? If we need, we don't. We talked about this before. It's a green December day in Ottawa, which is very rare. But if I ever needed somebody, to shovel my laneway, this would be a perfect way to do this.
You got it.
But I know that because of the fluidity of this marketplace, I'm going to get a good price because I'm going to get competitive bids against this, and so this has got to have an impact long term on earning ability and what we as consumers pay, or what as businesses will it be able to generate, good or bad.
I think it's a natural transition. I think, and it's one of these things that I think naturally happens when you add transparency to otherwise opaque markets. And that's kind of what our ultimate goal is like we're an extremely transparent marketplace, and that you can basically see, you can get bids whatever prices you want from other people. You say what you want, your price, and you can kind of communicate back and forth. So we think that kind of transparency is something good. And that's some of the things that have been done in markets before. So essentially eBay was disrupting the flea market. So essentially rather than having one flea market, you became a nationwide flea market. Right. And so you can see the price for those baseball cards right in front of you. Same thing with other markets, cars.com, whatever they might be. They try to add transparency to an otherwise opaque market, and we think that we're kind of working in a number of verticals that are somewhat opaque. So to add transparency to the cleaning market, the home cleaning market is great, the catering market, even like furniture, used furniture or new furniture. There's certain transparency that we think happens, and I think that it's good for the consumers and it's good for businesses to have that, because ultimately at the end of the day, he who provides the best service, the best product wins when there's transparency. And so that's kind of what we're after, and that's why I think that our market is the way that it is. We have a very kind of clear market. We try and not allow things that would, we don't allow smut, we don't allow illegal activities. We try and really focus it on things that do, and I think that's where our market is going to differentiate itself.
Yeah. So no drugs, no prostitution.
Nope. We ban that stuff. So we have both an algorithm and a human team that kind of scans to make sure things are on the up and up. And that I think is something that we thought of right away. I think that there's other marketplaces out there that have had problems with that, and it winds up. We want moms to be comfortable using the system, and so to do that, you basically build a marketplace that you would let your mother use. And so I want my mom to use Zaarly, and she does. So win for me.
Yeah, she better, right? I mean,
yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I got to ask you about the competition. There are incumbents, right? And mostly they're in the classified business, whether they're digital classifieds, whether they're just print classifieds, whether they're local newspapers with classifieds in. How do you are you finding it easy to convert people, to bring people from those into something like Zaarly? Does it complement it? And are you finding that people, once they use it, they're hooked?
Yeah, I think that the first thing is that we are mobile, and so we are a mobile first company, and so I think that that's a quick differentiator right there between the classified. So essentially, like in a lot of ways, Craigslist disrupted the newspaper classified ads. In the same ways is that we think mobile will disrupt Craigslist in a lot of ways. And I think that Craigslist certainly fills a need that people have, but we think that it's difficult to just port a web experience onto mobile and have that type of thing. So I think that people, for us, wind up seeing this as a compliment sometimes, and that there are things that are sometimes better on eBay or Craigslist, and that's okay. Ultimately, there's a place where we fit right now, and we think that as you add more and more density, more and more service providers to the marketplace, those kind of things will start to transition to mobile. But I think for us, what our consumers see is that once they have that magical experience of finding out that their neighbor around them has something they want, or that really unique experience, you are hooked. You want to try more things. And really what our marketplace is, and how buyers think about it, is we call it like the ask economy, essentially. Like it's different in that what you're doing is you're just asking if someone around you has it, and asking at a general price range. So you may basically, the first time you may ask for something that's really nuanced, and maybe someone right around you might not have it, but you can just ask it. So it's really about discovery a lot of times. We find some really, really random requests on there that people fulfill, but they would have never known where else to look. Like if you need a recording of a presentation that someone went to, or you left your jacket in a restaurant and someone picked it up but you don't know who. There's these really like random things that happen that this market allows people to do, and I think that's kind of the fun part about it.
Yeah, really interesting, because I mean it can become like the local lost and found with a reward. Like there's a $10 reward for bringing my jacket back, right?
Yeah, or even like simple things too. What we even find is that there's people who want. I'm looking for someone to review my app and test it to see how it works, so that they'll pay $25 for someone to give me detailed feedback on it. Or there's a guy who's like into music in New York that works for us, and he said like I would love to basically be able to get someone to give me a new list of songs to listen to for the week. And so he found a music producer who literally he pays $25 a week to go through and curate songs for him, send him a new updated playlist every week. It's kind of amazing, but where would you have been able to go otherwise than something like this?
And I can also see that this is probably a pretty rich environment for business ideas. Right, so
You got it.
you know, when you start to look at the trends of this kind of stuff that people are asking for, you can think, okay, you know what? That's the 100th person that's asked for this. Maybe there's an opportunity to start a business around that. Do you
Got
hope
it.
that that happens as a result of Zaarly? That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we do. We do. It's actually a big part of our strategy. So really what we're finding is this minimum viable density. We're actually going out and getting these businesses that may be 1 or 2 person businesses right now, but want to grow. And so a lot of things what Zaarly can do is be the smart way for them to go mobile without actually having to build their own app or try and do some broad campaign. The truth is they can set up a very simple platform where they can set up an alert for whatever it might be. If it's, if they're a lawyer, they can set up an alert for anyone asking for a lawyer or a graphics designer or whatever it might be. And they're suddenly a mobile company. It's an amazing thing
awesome.
that we're seeing. And I think that it does allow you to be on the forefront of it. And our alerting feature, our small business tool feature is it's gone gangbusters. We, in our first month of kind of our alpha version in New York City, we signed up over 1,000 businesses within the first month. And to see that like naturally happen, it's great. And we think it's going to happen city by city and expand really fast for a new feature we just turned on.
Well, I mean, again, more validation for you guys. And like I think about this, you know what? Really interesting conversations, obviously, through Untether.tv, where some of these ideas really resonate with me. And when you start to think about how businesses can start to move into the mobile space, which is always sometimes a challenge because it's so big and daunting. It's not, you don't go and build an app, don't do all that kind of stuff. But, you know, this really resonates with me because one of the guys that I talked to talked about, listen, you know, leverage ad networks. Right, so if you want to understand how your product is going to work in a different locale, in a different country, in a different city, go and advertise on that ad network where you can pinpoint that location and test it. See how many click-throughs you get. You know, Tim Ferriss talks about this as well in his book, but the 4-Hour Workweek. But really, this is another way of doing it with you guys. Is like, listen, I want to understand, would this business fly in New York City or Chicago or you know, Provo, Utah? I'm gonna start posting to see if there's a service or you know, I'll post my service and see if there's any interest. And if I get interest, then this is research being done, and that's, you
got it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it becomes cheap to do these things, and then the impact is profound, right?
Yep. Agree. That's what we hope. We hope to spur a lot of businesses, and I think we have we almost view that we're building a platform for small businesses to build. We're also very aggressively working on an API that will allow people to plug right into this and create almost like the world's first crowdsourced API, so that you can build more niche and targeted platforms right on top of that. And I think that's something we'll be rolling out in early 2012.
I love that. I mean, an open API is very key. So how do you guys? How big do you think this industry is for you guys? Like, do you sit back and you think about that? This is, Zaarly is going to be this $100 million company. It's going to be $1 billion. Like, do you guys think about that, or do you just roll with what you've gone through in the last, 11 months?
Yeah, we don't. So we don't. Obviously, we don't dwell on it or think on it. We're still, a baby company.
You don't sit back and like, $1 billion.
God, how's it? No, but I think we know that it's an important market. I think that what we're trying to do is something profound. I mean, we don't. When we started this, we're all doing amazing things at other companies that we love doing, and so we've left those to do something that we thought was meaningful and material, personally as well as for others. Yeah. So we think that businesses can build on the backs of this. Others can build on the back of it. eBay is a $50 billion company. Craigslist is, were it run for a profit business, it would be a several $100 million to $1 billion plus business. So we think this is well within those bands for sure, just because of the fact that there's obviously new markets that are not touched by anyone right now. Plus, there's other markets that are somewhat served by other people. So it's a big opportunity, and marketplaces wind up being large. Again, eBay is our best corollary in a lot of ways. We're trying to view and build a mobile version of an eBay or a Craigslist that really focuses on that experience, not a porting of a web presence to a mobile, but a mobile-focused presence. And I think that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry at the minimums.
You guys have to be doing something right, because when I was doing my research on you guys, I don't remember what it was, but it popped up. We are the Zaarly of this, right? I don't know if you started to see that yourself, but
for sure.
This was in June of 2011. So, weeks after you launched, basically, we're the Zaarly of this and we're the Zaarly of that. And, when you start to get that into the vernacular, you are the this of this, you've hit a note. And and now it's about accelerating as fast as you can and owning this, right? Because
you got it.
There are always people who are going to be nipping at your heels, because I guess the the feeling is that mobile it levels the playing field, because it's
Sure.
not. Now this is a scale thing. This is a network thing, as opposed to a laborious technology implementation, right? Your technology gets smarter, but to start is not very difficult. I mean, you guys built a prototype and secured Ashton Kutcher in a weekend.
Right.
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 So the head start. So I know you guys raised a considerable amount of money. I mean, it goes along. I mentioned TaskRabbit. They raised $17 million recently. You guys did $14.1 million. I guess late summer, early fall.
Yeah, in October.
With some big guys. Like, was it Kleiner that was in
Kleiner, yeah, Kleiner and Sands Capital on the East Coast. So we have a really great group, and I think so I think that the first thing to talk about is, how we're a little different than a TaskRabbit, and I think that, Tasks is about 5% of our market. So so it's an interesting piece, but it's ultimately, it's hard to build a personal business in that game on top of it. So I think that they're a great business, and we've seen some overlap and things like that, but definitely it's a small piece of what we do. But I think for us, the venture capital piece of it is that we did realize the real magic behind this is obviously having a technology that is cross-platform, and so we do operate an Android, iPhone, and we do have a web presence, a Facebook presence, an API. There's a lot of pieces to this whole thing that all communicate seamlessly. But the flip side of it truly is that this is about getting buyers and sellers on the marketplace. And so for us, it is about getting people to wind up using this platform, having a great experience. And I think that's why we've really focused on building kind of a community of people that love us, that will help us out. And, we've grown this way not because of what we've done, but because of who we've brought onto this. And I think that we have a community of people that are super supportive, help us along the way. And I think that this whole launch fast and basically iterate based on feedback has helped us do that. People from the very first time we turned this on at Startup Weekend and South by Southwest and our full launch, we've been open kimono. Hey, please tell us what we can do better, and we need your help to do it. And that's the only way this thing works.
Well, I think so. And once you get dedicated community members, it's something that you hope that people use, once a day, two times a day, or twice a week, 3 times a week. So they're coming back, and they're coming back the app experience is beautiful as well, and because you're focusing on the mobile stuff, mobile first, and it's like the Airbnb app. I might not be looking for a place to stay, but quite regularly I'll launch that application because it's a beautiful, engaging, enriching experience, and you get to be a little bit of a voyeur into somebody else's home, right? To see how the other side lives. Yep.
And we're learning from them too. I think we're actually, we've basically been able to build all these businesses into our platform now, and we're starting to actually take them and help them almost advertise what they can do. So we're going to be releasing a new version of the app very soon that'll have kind of, we call it buyer inspiration. So it's inspiration of things that you can post that people are getting. So have someone bake me 24 cookies, or find someone to help me pamper myself for an hour. And so those kind of experiences that I think that Airbnb does, it's someone referred to it as eye porn in a lot of ways. That's what they've done. And I think that I think in the same place is that we know all these stories that are happening, so we're going to start to share these stories a lot more and more. And I think that's the fun part for us, is to say, there are these cool people who are doing these great things, and we're sharing their stories, so that when you're in, whether you're in Boise or you're in Florida, you can kind of know what are the stories that people around you can help you create.
It's pretty incredible. So I got to ask this question: was it hard to raise the money? Did you waffle on the idea of raising money versus just kind of growing it organically? And what was the reason why you decided to go out and raise? It was a tedious process in a lot of ways. We talked to a lot of different people, and I think because of kind of our fast start, we've had a lot of people approach us. So we haven't really gone out the process and said to pass the hat kind of a thing. But because we had a lot of people inbound talk to us, and we're all kind of experienced entrepreneurs, so that helped us. But I think it was really it was difficult to find the right person to work with. I mean, I think for us it was really about we want to do something that we love doing, and we want to do it with people we love doing it with, and we were fortunate to find those kind of people to do it with. And I think when we sat down with Kleiner, the first conversation was they love what we're doing, and the second conversation was we want you to meet our team. And so we literally 4 days after meeting with the first meeting that Bo, my co-founder, had with Chihuahua, who became our board member, we were in San Francisco meeting with the entire KP partnership. And in that meeting,
meeting was Meg Whitman, and it was kind of an uncanny experience a little bit to sit there and have Meg Whitman kind of listening to our pitch. And early on, in the conversation, she stopped it. She stopped the room and she goes, "I just have to say this. Maybe this isn't right that I should say this, but this feels a lot like eBay did when I first joined."
Wow.
And we were like, "Whoa, like it's scary and awesome all at the same time." But I think for us, that made it. That's the kind of partner you want. You want someone who has the experience and the knowledge that a Meg Whitman and a KP brings, but also the pragmatism that they bring. I mean, I think Meg is the first person in our board meetings and in rooms to say things like, "This is how we did it at eBay, but times are different, and you're a mobile company, so let's not try and over-engineer what we did to what you guys are doing." So I think that kind of mixture of experience and pragmatism is. It's impressive. It is impressive to work with someone of that kind of perspective.
Well, it seems that you landed in the right boardroom at the right time with the right person on the other end. Because I think a stamp of approval or that kind of statement, whether it's an emotional statement or whatnot, it's you don't see many VCs play a card like that to say, wait a second, this is this big, right?
Right.
And what are the guys around the table going to say? Oh, no, we're not interested in this. Yeah.
That's right.
I love that. Right. I love that. But that's when it evokes an emotion like that. I mean, that's what you do not only in the boardroom with Kleiner Perkins and Meg Whitman, who actually is now on your board, and we'll come to that in a second. But it's also what you do with your customers, right? So you're eliciting that kind of emotional attachment from the guys who are investing in you here to the people who are using it to buy and sell services and products. I mean, it's up and down that chain, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's something that we've really learned is the importance of kind of creating that emotion in your customers. And I think that emotion has been so important for us, is to have someone feel like when something happens that it is tied to a moment. So we talk a lot about, Zaarly's for those mobile moments in life. It's where you're at your wedding or your kid's birthday party, or, me leaving my dogs with someone I met on Zaarly. Like, those are emotional moments, and we want to inspire those and create those. And so I think, that's why we focus a lot on creating a marketplace that's trusted, that we have that information about people, and also creating that experience where you just feel like that magic happens. It is. There's just this like little moment of magic that happens when someone responds back to you, and it might be someone you've never met before. It might be someone who has a great story. We just, recently around the holiday season, there was a woman who posted for, her kids. The only thing they wanted was a real Christmas tree. They didn't want a fake Christmas tree. And she's this tiny single mother. She's 90 pounds, and she says she's like, I can't go get a Christmas tree for you, kid. So she literally used Zaarly to have someone post a Christmas tree. Met someone, brought their family over, put the Christmas tree up, and the kids decorated their first real Christmas tree. Like, that emotion is what we love. It's not every transaction, obviously, that happens that way. There's some that are much more utilitarian, but we want you to basically feel that cool emotion when you get something that you just couldn't have got anywhere else. All
right. How did Meg Whitman come onto the board? Did she just volunteer? Did she stand up and say, "I'm interested"? And whatever happened to Ashton Kutcher during this whole thing?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first part. Is like, Ashton as an investor, people will often ask us, like, what's it like to have Ashton Kutcher on your board or in your company, an investor, and things like that. And Ashton's great from a number of reasons. I don't think that his value to us is from his celebrity as much as it is from his business wisdom. I mean, he is you may have an impression of him as an actor, but he as someone who's knowledgeable in the technology space is pretty much second to none.
I've seen him speak, and he gets it, right? He understands. He understands this, and it's you don't dismiss a guy like him simply because of his acting ability. It just gives him a little bit of leeway to do what he probably loves to do more than act.
Yep. Yeah, so he's been great throughout, and I think he's someone who we count on for perspective on a lot of things. And then the way that we were in, so he's been supportive of Kleiner.
So he's still involved. He's still involved with you guys?
Involved. Yeah, he's involved with us all the time, and so he's very thoughtful with product stuff as well as kind of marketing and just community engagement type things. And so I think with Meg, the way that actually happened was that was kind of part of the deal that we asked with Kleiner. Is said, like, we want you involved, and we'd love to have Meg join the board as a part of this. And so we basically kind of had to convince Meg that she wanted to do this with us, and it didn't take much convincing. The interesting part of the process a little bit is when we started with Kleiner and Meg in the process is that Meg was a full-time partner at Kleiner Perkins,
right?
And then midway
all
through,
of a sudden.
closing the deal with Kleiner, she took the job as the CEO of HP, and we all looked at ourselves and thought, "Oh no, what's this going to mean? What's going to happen?" And she said, I love what you guys are doing. I want to stay involved. We just need to have board meetings at HP if that's okay." And we said, "Absolutely, it's okay." So we have our opportunity to meet with her, and she's very engaged and involved in our process too.
So what does the next year look like for you guys? As you kind of almost, you're not even a year old yet, and look what you guys have done in this short period of time. And kudos, man. Like Eric, hats off to you and Bo for putting this together and going with it, and then to all the team that probably supports you behind the scenes that don't get on camera. It takes all of
Absolutely.
you guys to do this, right? So
For sure.
what is it? What's the second year look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think this is going to be probably the most interesting, fun, unique year of Zaarly, and largely because what we spent a lot of time really in the first 6 months is listening to all of the things from customers, and I think we've been able to really iterate quickly to get to this point. But I think now we've got a pretty good understanding of how we can give customers those magic moments that you talked about earlier as much as possible. So now really it's taking those magic moments and basically starting to scale them. So literally giving you helping people be inspired to post for chocolate chip cookies, because we know we've got 10 great bakers in your community that'll give you that great experience. So how do we wind up doing that every time that someone's first experience is on the system? So I think that's one of the things that we're really going to look at, is how we basically replicate those magical moments over and over again in the places where we're strongest. I think the second thing that we're going to really do is look to really expand this as a platform. So both expand the number of small businesses on the platform, and give the number of times that we get the chance to really have the platform built for other businesses to help use the API and things like that. And then I think the third thing going to do is look to expand internationally. I think that there's really some unique opportunities and partners we've started to talk to that I think give us that chance to take this platform outside of here. And so I think we're going to look at those places, be really thoughtful about it. It's not one of those things that we want to turn on and just kind of say hopefully it works. It really does take a lot more magic in the background than I think people sometimes realize to make all this work. But we've started to develop that playbook, and I think we're going to keep going from here.
God. Well, you know what? I would love to have you back on in 6 months, as you've crested your first anniversary. You're going through this process, and because I think what you've done in a short period of time is incredible, and the amount of awareness that you've created for the startup in a very short period of time is incredible. And I think that there are many lessons to be learned as you kind of go through this process. And it would be very interesting to see where you are 6 months
Absolutely.
from now. So I will call on you.
Call it in May. May 18th is our 1 year anniversary. So I'd love to sit down around that time and tell you all the things we're learning and have learned.
All right, I'm making a note of it right now. I'm writing it down in my book. You'll get an email.
And then I'll put it on my calendar.
My last question, very quickly, is South by Southwest. Was this a good place for you to launch? I get a lot of questions around that, because people put a lot of emphasis on their product, and they decide, listen, we're going to get it to South by Southwest, and they go through that experience of building a product and staying up, like you said, 3 straight weeks, and they get it out there, and then it's like the day after. So they succeed at South by Southwest, and there's a day after, and it's like, I don't know what to do now, right? So for you guys, how did South by Southwest do?
So it was one of those kind of things a little bit that I think maybe our mouths signed us up for something, and then we kind of had to back it up a little bit. We were thinking what after Startup Weekend? 3 weeks later, we thought, well, of course, why don't we try South by Southwest? Not really thinking about it, researching it, and a big deal. So, on one hand, I think it wound up working out great for us. It was a lot of work and a lot of time spent to make it happen. But I think that the more important lesson that we learned is that we tried to replicate what we did at South by Southwest in our top 8 markets when we launched nationwide. Yeah. So I think that the key from South by Southwest is not viewing this as your launch, but what it is it's a way to try out things that you think will work in other communities. So the things that we learned there were really helpful for us to take it to New York and Seattle and San Francisco and in DC. So I think that's the more important lesson, is it's really easy to get this in the hands of early adopters who give you a lot of flexibility, but then to take those lessons and learn it when you go to the next city or the next cities after that.
So, it's basically a microcosm of the community that you're trying to build.
You got it.
Full of guys who actually will tell you exactly what they think. Right?
Absolutely. And for us, it was important too, and we met a lot of people that we wound up tapping when we went back to these other places. You do get people from all over the country congregating one place, so it's not a lot of Austinites who are at South by Southwest. It's a lot more people from the Valley or from Boston or Atlanta. So I think for us it was a great way to get this in the hands of a lot of people quickly.
Well, it's great. One other question just popped up before we go. IP. Do you
Yep.
protect yourself? Have
We
you
do.
gone through
Absolutely.
that process? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a recovered startup lawyer, so I think that was maybe one of the benefits of starting out is to think a lot about like how do you build a big company, and it's around creating a protectable product.
Yep.
It's around protecting your name and your brand, and so we know we want to go global, and so we've kind of thought about that very very clearly about from trademarks to copyright to patents. We've tried to protect ourselves in a way that we can kind of allow us to expand this around the world.
Wicked. Eric, I think I could probably ask you 300 more questions. Running out of time. But I really, really, really appreciate it. I mean, this has been you've been so open and so accommodating to these questions. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this because it's a great story, and I can't wait to follow up with you in May to see what you guys are up to.
For sure. I appreciate it. And thanks a lot. I mean, this is one of these, I love interviews where people have really thought about our product and how it fits in and just to know the ecosystem well, because I do think that we do need more kind of stewards to basically encourage people to think about this as a platform. And, I do think that the one risk is that companies view this as just to take a web presence and port it over. And you need people who can help, inspire you and encourage you to think about this differently.
Well, it's exactly, we believe that, both of us, that this is a world-changing environment that we are. We've never seen anything like this before. The opportunities that it's providing for businesses, entrepreneurs, consumers is incredible. And anything that I can do, anything to push that forward, I will, because it's such a great piece. We're going to look back on this as a watershed moment in technology and in our lives. And I'm documenting as much as I can of it.
Good.
Now you're part of it.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the time today.
I've been speaking with Eric Kutcher, who is the co-founder and COO of Zaarly. Go to Zaarly.com. That's Zaarly.com or Zaarly.com, depending on what nation you are from. Go and check it out. If you're in the States, it's available. Go and play around with it. And I'd love your feedback about this. If you enjoyed this, if you wanted me to ask Eric a different question, let me know. Reach out at untether@gmail.com. And you know that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I really appreciate the fact that you have spent this time with us. I know you found a ton of value from Eric, and I appreciate this. And we'll see you next time on untether.tv. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.